Alright guys, this video should be mostly a review. I know you've covered chemical and physical changes before in other class, but we're going to go through them again because they're very, very important. So let's start off with the basics. A physical change, we're going to start to talk about them first. If physical changes do not change the identity of a substance. That's the big thing. If it starts as wood and it ends as wood, it is still a physical change. If it starts as paper and ends as paper, it's still a physical change. Now, if it goes from wood to ash, that's just going to be basically carbon. If it's been burned, it's no longer a tree. It's no longer wood. But if water gets boiled, it's still water. It's still a gas. That's a physical change. So you have to remember, nothing new has been formed. It is still the same substance. That's what you got to keep in mind with physical changes. Now, chemical changes are the exact opposite. They transform one or more substances into a new and different substance. They will involve some sort of reaction taking place. It has to be to form a new substance. So here's some clues if you're trying to figure out if it's chemical. First, you have an unexpected change in heat energy. So the temperature has changed. You've probably heard the words exothermic and endothermic before. If you haven't, you'll get there this year, I promise. So if it becomes hotter or colder, a new substance has been made. If a gas is produced, bubbling. Now keep in mind, when you boil stuff, there is a gas that comes up and forms little bubbles. That is not what we're talking about. We'll show you the very, very subtle difference, but this is a gas being produced without heat being added to it. So do not confuse bubbling with boiling. Then you have an unexpected color change. So it'll go from clear to pink, or from pink to purple, or from purple back to clear. Anytime there's a color change, their chemicals have been realigned to reflect light in a different manner. So there's a new substance being formed there. Then you have a solid precipitate being produced. Keep this word in mind, you'll see it a lot. But a precipitate is if we mix two liquids together and a solid comes out of it. So it could also come out as cloudiness if that precipitate decides to disperse throughout the whole liquid. Most of the time they fall to the bottom. We'll be dealing with a lot of precipitates very, very soon. And then you have an unexpected or apparent mass change. This normally accompanies the gas being produced that we talked about just a little bit ago. That is a little bit more technical, but you still need to know it. You also have a new odor form. If it doesn't stink, and then it stinks, something new has been created. Something doesn't just go from being smelly good then to being smelly bad. If I've got a sock right out of the dryer, it's going to smell good. If I go and run with that sock, it's going to become stinky because some bacteria is on it. That's a terrible example. Take a loaf of bread, for example. You pull bread right out of a bag, it smells like bread. You leave it out for a week or two, you get today's bread about a month or two, it's going to become black. It's no longer bread. It's turned into a mold or bacteria. Now it stinks because it's been changed. It's no longer bread. And then the light being produced, if it explodes, obviously it's something new at that point. So keep those in mind. If something new is formed, or if it stays the same, just in a different state of matter. We'll talk about those different states of matter next video. Okay, so you've probably seen this before. These are the processes of digestion. We're going to go through this really just from mouth to stomach. So go ahead and pause it, see if you can classify these as physical and chemical, and we'll come back to it. Okay, I hope this is pretty easy for you. But chewing of food, we're talking about just the teeth mashing down. We're not talking about the amylase enzyme. We're talking mostly just about it being crunched. We're going to call that physical. If you said chemical and you say, well, there's a little bit of starch digestion, I'll take that, but you got to be able to justify it. Breakdown of proteins into amino acids. It's no longer a protein. It's a smaller amino acid, so that is chemical. It's a new substance. Breakdown of carbohydrates into simple sugars. It's no longer a carbohydrate. It's a sugar. So something new has been formed. Chemical. Churning of food, we're just talking about the muscles of the stomach churning it around, making it smaller, mixing things up. It's still just a bolus, if you will. So it's still just food. So it's a physical change. And starch breakdown is just like a carbohydrate breakdown, but it's breaking down to something new, something different. So a chemical reaction had to occur, so it's a chemical change. And food reacting with hydrochloric acid, if it reacts at all, it's a chemical change because it's no longer what it once was. So if you're struggling with these, we'll hit them a little bit in class, but we can get you more practice if you need them.